Hello and welcome to Bose Garage. Welcome to the part 2 video of Ambassador front suspension rebuild. If you haven't already watched the part 1, we have given the link in the top right corner in the I button. Please do watch the part 1 completely before you watch part 2. In the part 1 video, in the intro, we have given some informations and it also shows how to dismantle the suspension of the Ambassador. And the part 2 video will help you to properly assemble it completely. Thank you. So before we proceed with the suspension rebuild, we will explain to you which bushes goes where, because we have around 34 bushes in the front suspension kit itself. So to avoid any confusion for you, we will explain you one by one where each bush is used. And you can see those 4 boxes in the middle. The first one is Sir Rubber. This is a brand which was available long ago for Ambassador. It's a brand by TVS, but now they have stopped the Sir Rubber branding and they have started selling as TVS Rubber. That is a third box over there. And another 2 brands available is Bright and VAR suspension kit. So we have Bright, TVS Rubber and VAR suspension kit for Ambassador available even now. For example, that Bright packing is 2022 manufactured, so it's still in production. So you can get brand new parts. So always when you buy suspension kit, make sure you buy the newest one available. If it is the same year and within few months, it's good, because if it is very old stock, like more than 5 or 6 years, the rubber might have already lost its properties. So there is no point in using such old bushes. Now we will show you which bushes are used where. So first let's start with the upper arm. So this is the upper arm of the suspension. It's in 2 halves. So this silent block bush is used on the upper arm here. So you need to send it to some hydraulic press to get it pressed properly, because by manually it is nearly impossible to do that. So better to rely on a hydraulic press. You can give it to the nearby engineering workshop, they will get it done for you. So these bushes you will see 4 in the package. And one more thing is the upper control arm, the 2 halves are not the same. You can see this one has a slight bend here. This is the one which comes on top like this. Then you have the swivel pin, or we call it the steering linkage. So you have a bush over here. We don't have spare to show you, but we will show you in a photograph which type of bush goes here. Also you need to check this metal bush. If that one is worn out, you need to give it to a lathe machining shop and replace this metal bush. And this is a kind of rubber seal which goes over here to avoid any dirt or anything to enter inside the grease. It comes here. Then on the bottom portion, again it is metal bushing here and here. So just check if there is any wear and tear. If there is some wear and tear, get it replaced. And there are 3 rubber seals. This rubber seal comes on either side, here and here, and this one on the top to avoid any ingress of dirt or grime, anything. This is a stabilizer bar bush. So you will see 2 of this in the kit. This also needs to be replaced. Then you have the balance rod or the tie rod. There are 2 bushes and a sleeve like this one. You will see 4 of them and 2 sleeves. The sleeves are not part of the suspension bush kit. You will have to buy it separately. It goes in like this. You need to push the sleeve inside the rubber bush and then you can tighten it. And then for the stabilizer bar linkage, you will see 1, 2 and 3 bushes here. This one is with a metal insert. So 2 of this comes on the top and this one comes here. And then for the shock absorber. The shock absorber we are changing with new one. So these bushes are already there with the shock absorber. But just in case if you want to replace it later on, we will show you. This is the bush that comes on the top. and you have two of this which comes at the bottom. Whenever you buy the shock absorber for the Ambassador, make sure to note the part number engraved on the shock absorber on your old one, because there are different types that came for the car and it is not standardized. So always check the part number on the shock absorber before you buy a new one. And then this is a torsion bar mounting, the front mounting. There is a bush over here, and this is the bush which goes inside here. So this one also you will find two in the kit. These are the alignment shims which comes factory fitted for Ambassador for the camber and caster adjustment. These things are no longer available, I think. We don't find it anymore. We have an alternative. We can use the shims from Mahindra Bolero. These kind of shims you can use for the camber and caster adjustment. We will share with you the part number. This is a Mahindra genuine part. It's not so expensive as well. For example, on the stub axle, it comes over here. So you can see that the holes are aligned. So you can use this shims for the camber adjustment, and for the caster you can use this one. And whenever you rebuild the suspension, it's always better to replace all the bolting material, the bolts and nuts, because just like the suspension parts, each of these bolts are also affected by the stress reversals. Like whenever you hit a porthole, it's not just the suspension linkages or the upper or lower control arm that takes the beating, it's also this bolting material. So if you find that some of the threads are damaged, or you feel that they are too old, it is always better to replace the entire bolt kit, and better to use nylock nuts, because Ambassador has this problem that the bolts will get loosened on its own over a period of time. So normally what everyone do is every 2000 or 3000 kilometers we need to check the tightness of the suspension bolts. But to minimize that activity, we can use nylock nuts with additional spring washers, so it's like a double protection. So that's all about the bushes. Now we can start the assembly. So we'll show you how to assemble the parts. So let's start with the assembly of the front suspension setup. On the left side, the right side we have already assembled, but we did that video in Malayalam. If you want to see that, you can view the video in Malayalam. So let's first install the bump stop. So normally the people don't replace the bump stop. Over a period of time, the suspension will bottom out and will come and hit on the bump stop, and the bump stops can get damaged. So if it is damaged, it is better to replace the bump stops as well. Apply a bit of grease on the underside, because these are areas that can accumulate water or dirt and later get rusted. And it is a good practice that whenever possible to remove and check underneath this area. So we install the bump stop. Now we can start the assembly of the upper control arm. The upper control arm comes over here. So these parts we need to pre-assemble first, and then we will put it over there. And as I told you before, these upper control arms looks the same, but there is a slight difference. The one which comes on the top has a slight bend over here. So it comes like this. So just make sure that. Now let's lubricate the bolts and let's pre-assemble it. So let's lubricate the bolts as well. So now let's pre-assemble. The top side, bottom side, we will not tighten anything completely now, because if you tighten it then it will be difficult to assemble the remaining parts. We will just install it like this. So before installing the upper control arm, we will place 3 washers over here. I will explain you the reason why. When these bushes gets worn out over a period of time, this upper arm starts touching the body. You can see the markings here. So to get some clearance, we will add 3 washers equal thickness on all the 3 bolts, and then we will install the upper control arm assembly. Now we can put this in position. And now let's tighten these 3 bolts. So let's tighten the bolts one by one. You will need the help of a second person to hold the bolt head from the engine bay. So we have tightened these 3 holding bolts, the 3 of them, and the upper arm we will leave it loosened. We will tighten it only at the final stage. So now we can connect the torsion bar mounting so that the torsion bar will be held in place. So this is the torsion bar mount. We have replaced the bush here, and here we have a washer, and you can see the tapered side. The tapered side goes inside. Then you have shims. We just add equal shims on either side. We had add 3 shims on the other side also. Later if required we will increase or decrease during alignment calculation. And then we need to insert it here and then here. So before you do that, check the condition of this pin. Make sure that this is in good condition. If there is excess wear and tear on this pin, it is better to replace this pin as well. This one is shrink fit on the lower arm connected to the torsion bar. You can send it to a hydraulic press and you can remove this pin and replace with a new pin. If the pin is still good, just lubricate it and install the torsion bar mount. So let's lubricate it first. So this goes in like this, the tapered end inside. It's better to lubricate the shims as well, otherwise it will get rusty over a period of time. We'll just install this in place and then insert the shims. Now we can insert the shims. And then you need to put this washer and the lock nut from the other side and tighten it first. So we have completed the upper arm, not completed, we just pre-assembled everything. We can we install the torsion bar mounting, we tighten the bolts on the other side, the nut on the other side, and now we can install the lower arm. Before you install the lower arm half, make sure you install the mounting for the balance rod. Otherwise, once you install it, it might be a bit difficult to tighten this nut. So let's just keep this one in position. We'll just hand tight only all the nuts and bolts. We will do the final tightening later on. So we have just roughly tightened all this. So now we will install the shock absorber first, and then we can install the swivel pin. So we just roughly tightened the bolts for the lower arm. We will tighten it completely at the end only. Now let's install the shock absorber first, because we will need to jack up the lower arm to align the holes for the shock absorber. And as I said before, whenever you buy the shock absorber, make sure to check the part number of the one on your car and buy the same, because as I told before, for Ambassador the different types have come. I think 2 or 3 types, so better to check the part number and buy the same. And here it's a special washer, like a slotted washer, and this is a locking washer. Now extend the shock absorber completely out. Now we need to jack up over here to align the holes. So now let's jack the lower arm so as to install the top bolt of the shock absorber. So you should be very careful when you are doing this. Make sure that the car is supported well, because we know that on the front there are no tires. So be very careful, ensure that the jack doesn't slip out, and then slowly start jacking. So we have put a jack underneath the lower arm, jacked it up, and extend the shock absorber to the maximum extent possible, and we have aligned the holes on the top and installed the bolt. Tighten the top bolt as well as the lower bolt, and then you can release the jack. You may need to jack it up again to install the swivel pin which comes over here, but that will be later on. So let's complete the shock absorber assembly and then we can release the jack. So be very careful when you are working with this arrangement. There is a possibility that it can slip, so make sure that your car is well supported as well, and don't leave your legs or hands underneath the car when you are doing this activity. Once you jack it up and align the holes, make sure that the jack will not slip, then only put your hand inside and insert the bolt. So we have installed the shock absorber, tightened the top bolt as well as the lower bolt. We will check again the tightness later on. Now we can install the steering swivel pin. As I told before, the swivel pin has left and right. You can see the marking L here. So, and also this thread on the left side is opposite thread, that is anti-clockwise is tightening, clockwise is loosening, or we can say LHS thread. On the driver side or the right side, it is a normal thread. So don't mix up the parts in between, otherwise you will be very much confused. So always make sure that you install the right part at the right position. And this is the top portion of the swivel pin. Here also you can see a marking L. So we have replaced the bushes. This bush is good. We need to grease this area properly. Install new grease nipple, and there is a dust cap on the top. Make sure that you install it after final assembly. Now to insert the grease you need to remove it, but after final assembly make sure to keep it, otherwise there will be water ingress. This is the lower half of the swivel pin. Here also insert a new grease nipple. You can see there is a sleeve inside. If you tap it, the sleeve will come out. Clean it and grease it properly and reinstall. Apply grease inside also. We haven't done now. We will put grease inside, and then you can install the lower portion of the swivel pin. Here also you can see the marking L. So now let's apply grease on both the threaded parts and install the lower and top portion. So now we can install the swivel pin. We have installed the top portion and the bottom portion. The top portion, the rubber seal is this one, and for the bottom portion is this one. You need to lubricate both of them properly, and as I told you before, this one is opposite thread, so anti-clockwise is tight. See, this is fully tight now. After you fully tight, release it by one turn, and then you can check it moves freely 180 degree to both sides. So that is the top portion. Now the bottom portion also we need to fully tight, full tight, and release by one turn. I will better release one more turn. It appears too compressed. So now 180 degree, 180 degree. So we can proceed to install this one. There are two metal spacers on either side at the bottom half, and these are two rubber sleeves. Let's install the rubber sleeves first. So the rubber seals are installed. Now we will install the spacers. Just lubricate it a bit. Okay, so the spacers are installed. Before to put in place, we will just check once again. Free rotation. So we will tighten this one later. Let's install the top half. So now let's tighten the bolts. So we have tightened all the bolts. Tighten the shock absorber top mount and the bottom mount. Then the upper arm, the bolts. Also this triangle piece, there are three bolts, two on top and one at bottom. For the upper arm there are 2 bolts over here, tighten that one. Then for the swivel pin there is 1 bolt over here, 1 over here. Then for the lower arm, this nut over here, and there are 2 bolts over here. So ensure that all of these are tightened. Just recheck. And there is one more thing, on this side, on the opposite side of the shock absorber, there is a special washer which you need to slightly bend to lock the nut. We have used lock nut, so it is not absolutely necessary, but still we can just bend it so that it will not get loosened during running. And now we can install the balance rod and the stabilizer bar. So now we can install the stabilizer bar. These are the bushes on either side. This is with a slot, and this is the clamp, and these are the 2 bolts. So once we install the stabilizer bar, we have 2 linkages on either side, which we will show you later on. So let's just proceed to install the stabilizer bar. So the bushes are like slit on one side, so we can install it like this. We can put the clamp, and now we can fix it under the car. After that we can install the linkages. So now you can see that the stabilizer bar is in place. We haven't tightened the bolts for the clamp because first we will install the stabilizer bar linkage. So we have completed the installation of the stabilizer bar, the stabilizer linkage. Now we need to install the balance rod connecting from here till here. This is the balance rod. You insert one lock nut inside to this much. Then you have a plate washer. Then you have a bush and a metal sleeve. Insert the metal sleeve inside the bush, and then you can insert it over here. And then on the other side you have another rubber bush which you need to insert from here, and a plate washer, a locking washer and a lock nut, and you need to lock this position with this bolt. So this way you can finish the balance rod as well. So basically we have completed our suspension rebuild. We just need to connect our tie rod end and then install the stub axle to the brake shoe plate. Of course the brake system needs service. We will be doing it as a separate video. For the time being we will be only focusing on suspension, and once we install the stub axle and when we have to install it to the swivel pin, we will add around 2 mm shims. Each shim is around 1 mm thickness. This one, as we told you before, is from the Mahindra Bolero. So we can just use this to adjust the camber, and we have smaller shims to adjust the caster if required. So for the time being we will just put 2 mm shims on either side, and after all the work is complete we will send the car for alignment check. So stub axle, this is the top side, this is the bottom side. On the top side the distance between the holes is less, here it is more, and stub axle definitely have left and right. The left hand side is opposite thread and right hand side is the normal thread. So don't mix it up. As we said, for the swivel pin the thread is different here as well. Malayalam. So we have installed the stub axle as well as the brake shoe plate. You can see these four bolts, and we have installed the 2 mm shims for camber adjustment. Of course, this is not the final adjustment. Final adjustment will be done later on after all the work is complete. Now the work pending is the brake service, and then we will install the drum and the tires. So brake service we will do a separate video. So that's all for suspension rebuild for the Ambassador, the front suspension. Soon we will do a rear suspension rebuild as well. So we will do it as a separate video. So thanks for watching Bose Garage. We hope you like the video, and if you have any comments or you have any feedbacks or you have any queries, do let us know through the comment section, or you can send us an email at bosegaragesnow@gmail.com. So thank you once again. See you soon with another video.